Well, that happened. Ohio State 23, Indiana 3. Tim May, the 40-year vet, Andy Backstrom. I'm Spencer Holbrook. This is a rapid reaction presented by Byers Auto. Game 1 in the books for the Buckeyes. It happened. It was a game.
Yep.
Not the prettiest game for Ohio State. It was
quick.
Rocky. It was quick. Kyle McCord was up and down. The offense in general was very down at times and a little up at times, enough to squeak out a win, get out of here with a victory. A road win in the Big Ten nonetheless.
Yep.
But now I'm going to send it over to the 40-year vet, Tim May. Tim, opening reaction, the rapid reaction presented by Byers Auto to this game.
I'll try to make it rapid. Number one, the defense, based on the way it left the field in that last game you got to see them play against Georgia, this defense basically had control of the game with the exception of a couple of times. And Indiana ekes out a field goal, and Denzel Burke and the other defensive guys, Josh Proctor, were talking about how it was disappointing because they wanted the shutout.
Yeah.
And so that's a good sign. But the way they took a stranglehold on Indiana just right off the bat, throwing the speed option at them, run the option a lot, they hadn't really even prepared for that. But you saw a more mature, older defense react on the fly. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was encouraging. And then number two, Kyle McCord, started a little bit inconsistent, erratically. I thought the second half, especially a couple of drives, he calmed down pretty well. A couple of play calls I didn't like, or maybe not giving him the option to look somewhere else, because it looked like a couple times he forced some throws when there were people wide open, which tells you he was running the play instead of scanning the field. That may have been his orders. Past that, it's always going to be a learn-on-the-go kind of situation for Kyle McCord and or Devin Brown.
Yeah, Sonny Styles flashed early and often there in the first half. The defense just carried through the entire way.
So did Josh Proctor.
Yeah, Josh Proctor was good. The Buckeyes went nearly 3 full quarters without giving up 100 yards of offense. That's damn good, especially for an offense that was pretty wonky. It gave Indiana a few more plays than it probably would have liked, considering that the offense was in and out of the game. Andy, just opening thoughts from this one.
Absolutely. Excellent defensive performance, but we do need to keep in mind this is an Indiana team that doesn't have its quarterback. It's waiting on Dexter Williams to get back, and they didn't really have a plan at quarterback, it seemed like. They were just kind of alternating between the two of them, Taven Jackson and Brendan Sorsby, and neither of them really ever found a rhythm. So that offensive line, too, for Indiana needs a lot of work. Ohio State's offensive line also needs some work, and that's something that was talked about post-game. The expectation is to run for 250, throw for 300, score 50 points. That didn't happen today. The offensive line was a bit part of it. We talked about it a lot off-season. We felt like it was ready to go. It was to a certain degree, but not fully there, and I think that was something that kind of came away from this game thinking because, Kyle McCord played pretty well, all things considered. But I do think that offensive line didn't really help this running game get going like it was supposed to today.
I want to tell you something. Indiana did help itself in the transfer portal. They got 23 guys from the transfer portal. For example, that Andre Carter kid, they gave Ohio State a lot of problems, and they were shooting guys, as in firing a guy from the secondary or the linebacker realm a lot, almost like they knew the plays a few times, whether there were tip-offs there, whatever. But, it was so inconsistent for Ohio State, even in the running game. We saw Travion Henderson have a sort of a great start and then, bam, run into a wall on one play in particular. But then, you saw Mayan Williams, Chop, come in to score, 2 touchdowns? Two touchdowns. But Chip Trainum, in my opinion, I gave him the offensive player of the game because I thought he gave them a lift from the running standpoint when they really needed it the most.
Yeah, and he played fullback, too. Chip Trainum, fullback.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be a receiver on that play too. Of the one play, then got knocked down, and that was Kyle McCord's interception.
Yeah, I have made a note, and this will go at lettermenrow.com. You'll be able to find this. Kyle McCord's best throw, I'm officially chalking up as the wheel route to Mayan Williams on 4th down. He had to put it in the chest. Yeah. Mayan was well covered.
Yeah.
That was a dot, as the kids say. Mayan Williams caught it, gets the first down. I think the Buckeyes score a touchdown there.
No,
so they just kick a field goal?
Kicking a field goal.
Regardless, and irregardless.
But here's an example. Then on either the next play or play after that, Marvin Harrison, they line up basically with 2 tights and, basically a full house looking look on the offensive line. Marvin Harrison's out man-to-man, 25 yards from the end of the line of scrimmage with 1 cornerback on him. And instead, they I think they ran the ball on that particular play. I'm just going, you got to have the freedom when you're a quarterback if you see that, you got Marvin Harrison man-to-man on anybody, right?
Yeah,
That's what they were lacking today, was that.
Well, this is the first time starting quarterback, and I don't care what you say about the Akron game. Yes, in the stat book, he started that game. He had 319 yards. This is his first start. That was a spot start for C.J. Stroud. No one expected him to come in and take C.J. Stroud's job. This was different. This was go out there, manage the offense. He is the starting quarterback, and I'm confident in saying that because Devin Brown played 3 plays that weren't in garbage time, and it was handoff, quarterback power that went nowhere. So, like, you should probably could have gotten him in the game more, and we can talk about that on the Monday after, which we're definitely going to a lot because the quarterbacks need to be a big topic of conversation. But, like, the fact that Kyle McCord played so much and they let him ride the ups and ride the downs and get through this game until garbage time tells me they wanted their solid guy in there, or not their solid guy, but they wanted him to work through those things, and that's important.
The guy you felt best about played the lion's share of the plays and more at quarterback. That's obvious now,
yes.
Because this was a Big Ten opener on the road.
Yes.
This was a game, as Ryan Day said many times, that people just went in one ear out the other. The main thing here was to get the W. You knew from experience it was not going to be pretty most of the time, and it wasn't. Defensively, I thought it was extremely pretty, but offensively, you almost always struggle with a first-time starting quarterback. So that's where Ryan Day, I think, kind of like made that point. But what makes the true point is the stats.
Ryan was making sure, Andy, to say, hey, I'm allowed to smile about the defense.
Yeah.
As disappointed, I think, is the correct word, as he was in the offense, and just the clunkiness, the overall, like, hey, what is exactly going on out there? He was fired up about that defense in that post-game press conference room.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was at all 3 levels. I felt like they all were flying to the ball from the start of the game. Tim even mentioned that, and I felt the same way. Right from the get-go, we saw that Josh Proctor hit, and he said, just having something like that, starting a free safety after the season he had last year, really just gets you up and gets everyone else up. And I think that was really evident that everyone, and there was another play where Steele Chambers had a tackle, and then Tommy Eichenberg came flying in to help to set up another 4th down and force another Indiana punt. I just felt like this defense was firing all cylinders again. It was not the greatest Indiana offense, but you hold a team to 3 points in the Big Ten. Yeah. That's a victory for this defense. And I guess to just go over back to the offense 1 second, I do want to say that, like, Kyle McCord in that 3rd quarter was as surgical as you would want your quarterback to be. He was 6 of 8, 101 yards. He would have had that touchdown had there not been the illegal touching for Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think we need to mention Cade Stover because he was, I believe, the leading receiver today, 5 catches, 98 yards.
That one play really pushed him over the top.
Right, but that was a catch and run for 49 yards. He almost broke it loose for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he looked great as a receiver out there. And I think for a first-year starting quarterback, a tight end can be your best friend over the middle of the field. We saw in that first drive, Kyle hit not only Cade Stover, but also G. Scott for a crucial conversion. And I think that we'll see the tight ends, at least in the early stages, quite a bit with Kyle over the middle of the field.
Can I make a point, too? I mean, I agree with what you said about the Mayan Williams, the little wheel route to Mayan Williams for that first down going toward that goal line. I saw 3 really good passes from Kyle McCord today. One of them was that one. One was the one to Cade Stover, where he just fit it right in there. And then the one to Julian Fleming, where he also fit it in there. Fleming, bounces off a hit and goes another, 10, 15 yards.
Yep.
Those were all 3 big-time throws. And the touchdown throw, like you said, that Marvin Harrison Jr. was right on the button. It got called back because Marvin Harrison Jr., Ryan Day wants to see on video whether, in fact, he did step out on his own or get knocked out.
I'm interested.
It doesn't matter now. It's a moot point. But the bottom line is that was a really nice throw. Like I said, I thought Kyle McCord had a couple of really nice drives in the second half. But it's the full picture we're talking about.
Yeah, I'd expect to see both of these quarterbacks next week.
They're playing Youngstown State.
Yeah. You'll see quite a bit of Devin Brown and quite a bit of Kyle McCord. And that's one man's opinion. Andy, we talked a lot, and I hate to keep saying on the offense, but, like, the defense, great job, guys. Great job. The offensive line, man, like, saw early on Carson Hinsman struggle to keep his feet. He's getting pushed back a little bit. I thought he shored himself up there through the second half. Those tackles, it was an okay day for Josh Fryer, I thought. I think Josh Simmons should probably stay off social media for the night. Just think it was a little bit of a tough day for him. But there's room for improvement. You see why Ohio State likes him so much, but then you also see why the offensive line was a concern. And I think that's okay in the first game of the season. You've got 2 more to shore that up before you go on the road to Notre Dame. This offensive line, I think it's going to see some things it likes, some things it doesn't like on this on the film study, but also Indiana was just firing extra guys through holes untouched, when I don't think a lot of defenses are going to be able to do that to Ohio State moving forward.
Isn't that what we expected, though?
Right. So
why not? 3 new starters.
Exactly. And so just as Ryan Day needs to go back to the tape, I think we do too as well, because there's points of that. We're looking at the offensive line. We're like, okay, well, what's going wrong? Because this rushing offense started off really well, and then it just came to a grinding halt. And I think, as we've mentioned, there were times where Aaron Casey, the linebacker for Indiana, would just shoot through the gap, and it was no one's blocking assignment. Now, maybe that's Carson Hinsman that needs to point that out before the play starts, but there's a lot of things that I think you need to go back and look at before just assigning all the blame.
Yeah, and what you can look at, I mean, it's you really are risking when you blitz to stop the run,
right?
Because if you guess wrong, or if you have the wrong gap, it can gas you. You know, I thought they guessed right several times today. Guessing may not be the right term. Called it correctly. You know, it helped that Matt Guerrieri, the current Indiana defensive co-coordinator, but also calling the plays. You know, he was at Ohio State last year. You could tell quite a few times that he was at Ohio State last year as an understudy, not quality control, whatever he was, you know, analyst for under Jim Knowles and stuff, and his work with Jim Knowles before. But the bottom line is, it looked like he knew Ohio State's offensive kind of like ideas, was paying attention last year when they watched video. But with that said, you know, there were a couple of times when things could have gone all the way. Like you said, if one guy had been picked up, instead, you know, you're punting.
Well, and here's the question, I guess, with the game plan then, because they could have probably come out throwing the ball more than they did, because once they let really air out, they were having success against this Indiana defense. And I think that if you're looking back at the game, maybe they needed to do that a little bit earlier rather than being so, I will say it, like stubborn, to set the tone on the ground. Like, I know you want to do that. Yeah, you want to do that week 1. I get it, especially with this offensive line, build momentum, but it wasn't working. Yeah. Maybe if you move away from that a little bit earlier in the first half, you're looking at a different game in the second half.
And in my head a little bit, I was starting to think, as Ryan Day continued to bring up the 2021 team and how they should have ran the ball more, they should have ran the ball more under CJ. This offense by nature passes to set up the run. Whether Ryan Day wants to admit it or not, like, everyone has to respect the receiver so much that you have to loosen it up by passing and make them respect those receivers to run the ball. And that's not the way Ohio State wants it to work, but with the receiving talent they have, that's how it works. And I was a little curious whether Ryan Day would almost get in his own head about, we need to run the ball to set up the pass, we need to run the ball to help our quarterbacks out. When in reality, like you said, like, once they let Kyle McCord kind of go and throw the ball more, it loosened everything up.
Yeah.
And so you wonder if they would have done it in the first quarter if this had a different result of this game, because once they did loosen it up, it was very, very apparent that Ohio State was definitely not going to lose this game. It was never in jeopardy, really. I never really had the feel of an upset, but also, like, at 10-3 and 13-3, you're still like, I don't know. And then you see 20-3, and it's like, yeah, this is a blowout. It just doesn't look like one, because this offense has been, like you said, a little stubborn with the running game.
Yeah. And there were at least 4 plays going over in my head that if C.J. Stroud had been at quarterback, seasoned veteran, clear to read what's going on instead of forcing things, you know, throw to where we're, you know, we'll do that as we go on. Meaning, you know, let's don't muddy this up too much. They would have probably, well, you still got to complete the pass, right?
Yeah.
But there were chances for big time touchdowns today. A couple 3 big time plays, which, for example, Marvin Harrison Jr. broke right up the seam here on a pass that Kyle threw to the sideline and was double teamed, contested, incomplete. And I'm telling you, it's like Marvin Harrison Jr., they didn't even know who he was on that particular play. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He broke so wide open. I don't think this defense did a whole big number on taking Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the game. I thought that was more Ohio State that did that. Agreed?
Yeah. And I think, you know, maybe Monday the assignment will be to pick C.J. Stroud's debut in 21 or Kyle McCord's debut in 23, because they feel a lot similar.
Yes,
they really do. They feel really similar. Like, Kyle struggled in the first half, so did C.J. Watch that film. Like, he struggled in that first half. He had the 70-yard touchdown to Travion, but all he did was drop the ball off and watch the freshman go. Kyle really struggled in the first half, I thought, at times, picking up things and calling things out. He did make a couple adjustments I was impressed with. Second half, settled down, and then go from there. CJ's second game against Oregon, he had 400 yards passing. I'm not saying Kyle's going to have 400 yards passing next week, but I would expect to see, once you see yourself on film and you're not just watching CJ out there, you're probably going to take a pretty big step forward in week 2 when you feel more comfortable. Hey, this is my offense.
So
now.
one time he really did wing it, though. He paid the ultimate price, which was a pick.
Yeah, and you're going to have that. CJ did it too.
Right, exactly. So that's why you are as conservative as possible with quarterbacks, as y'all well know, in a season opening situation. I mean, you just get out with the W. It wasn't pretty by any stretch, and I think the Ohio State defense helped make it not pretty because they didn't let the other team really dance much.
Closing thought?
Speaking of dancing, Hero Canoe had a sack, and JT Tuimoloau said, well, yeah, he had the sack, but he didn't know what to do to celebrate. So that was a nice moment for Hero Canoe, one of those young guys on defensive line and make an impact. And then one of the older guys was Jaden McKenzie, who also had a sack for that defensive line. We saw a lot of things up front there. We saw JT across from Caden Curry. We saw Jack Sawyer with Kenyatta Jackson. There was a lot of interesting combinations, I felt like, today, and other unsung heroes. Josh Proctor, we mentioned already, had a pretty good day for himself, getting to start there. Free safety, we were a little bit unsure about that.
Too, don't you?
Corners had a great day. Yeah. Davidson Ipinoson was called for targeting on the first series, but that flag was picked up, and he had a solid day, I felt like. Almost had an interception, actually, at one point. Denzel Burke had a couple breakups. Jordan Hancock had a breakup. Sonny Styles was in there on a few plays. I felt like that defensive backfield lived up to the hype this offseason. Again, they will be tested more. Not next week, but maybe the week after against Western Kentucky.
Are you kidding me? Western Kentucky's already throwing passes against Ohio State, and it's still 2 weeks away. You know, you made a good point, but we kept talking about this in the pregame, and we talked about it during the game. Clearly, Larry Johnson, or the defensive coaches, but Larry Johnson in particular, was keeping guys as fresh as possible, and that included Mike Hall.
Sometimes too fresh.
And that is your complaint about it. You know, we'll see how it goes, but the main thing, you don't want to waste Mike Hall, give up all Mike Hall's got in a game like this where it's 93 degrees feel like on the field and stuff. I'm just saying I know what Larry Johnson and them were thinking, but you got to see Jaden McKenzie make some plays. And you also got to see Mike Hall finally plant somebody in that fourth quarter. It was quite the hit coming out, just coming free and stuff. So there's more to come from this defense. That's what Denzel Burke was talking about. He's not leaving here super happy because they didn't get the shutout, and maybe they gave up a few plays. But that's a good sign when your defense plays that well and they're not happy.
The best part, Tim, I believe a philosopher, I think it was Meyer, who once said, the best part of being 1-0 is the chance to go 2-0.
Yeah.
The Buckeyes are 1-0. Now go back to the Horseshoe for the first time since the Michigan game. That's going to be an interesting homecoming for them because it's Youngstown State. It's a noon game. It's going to be hot. Hopefully fans show up because, remember the Akron game a couple years ago, Tim? It was like 75,000 people there. Go to the game next week, guys. It's the first home game. You should be there. Ohio State 1-0 on this 2023 regular season. Lettermen Row about to ship back east to Columbus, Ohio, the greatest city on earth. Until then, we'll be here at this stadium and in the hotel covering this team like we do 365 days a year at lettermenrow.com. Tim May's going to have a story on the defense. Andy, what are you writing about?
There's a lot of stuff. Probably the rushing offense grinding to a halt. The offensive line needs work, but overall a good day for the Buckeyes.
Don't you agree it was a hit or miss day for the rushing offense, though? I mean, because like I said, they guessed really well on some occasions, but Chip Trainum delivered, 53 yards. Mayan Williams, came around the corner for one touchdown.
But they won 250.
And ground his way.
That's why he's going to write about it. We're going to talk about it on Monday, too.
It was good and bad, but they won 250, too.
Little preview for the folks. He's going to write about the defense.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
He's going to write about
I've been up a long time today.
He's going to take the defense, get that covered. He's going to take the rushing offense. I'll have a good story about Josh Proctor. Hopefully a good story. I'm not going to toot my own horn. About Josh Proctor and his kind of coming back out party. Good for him for getting the start and playing well. I'll also talk about Kyle McCord's best throw. We might try to start telling you guys what we're going to write about so you have something to look forward to at lettermenrow.com. If you're not subscribed there, you can get that for 50% off right now for an entire year. $50 for a year, that's less than $1 a week, as the 40-year vet over here likes to say. Or you can just take $1, spend it for 1 month at lettermenrow.com. You won't regret it, and I guarantee you'll sign up after the $1's up because we're doing it all. We're trying to cover the Buckeyes the best we can. It's 40-year vet Tim May, Andy Backstrom, Matt Parker on the recruiting side. Photos, he's getting ready to run a photo gallery, easy for me to say, at lettermenrow.com. It's all there. That's all you need. So if you come out, you won't regret it. If you come to Columbus next week, you won't regret it. Make sure you go to the Ohio State game next week. Come on, fill the Horseshoe.
Are you getting part of the ticket cut? I mean, what's
No, I like a full horseshoe.
Okay.
Full horseshoe's fun.
I'm with you.
A full horseshoe is a fun
You
horseshoe,
said
Tim.
horseshoe turned like this.
Until next Saturday, we'll be covering
Good
the Buckeyes at lettermenrow.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Smash the subscribe underneath, and we'll see you back in the horseshoe on Monday for the Monday after Ohio State 23, Indiana 3. For now, this is the Rapid Reaction presented by Byers Auto.